doesn't even have to be through extreme competition or chasing podiums or being, the best at a sport. It could be, like you're saying, the best version of you, whatever that is, and getting to know yourself and what really makes yourself whole and bring the best to the world. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Middleish, the podcast about moderation in all things. I am Erin Green.
And I am Michael Gray.
And this is just a relaxed, ordinary podcast. Nothing exciting happening today, right, Michael?
No, nothing exciting at all. Just you and me here.
I will admit I'm about to spaz out and fangirl all over the place because I get to interview somebody who's been an incredible inspiration in my life and in the endurance world. If you're listening, she really needs no introduction. But I will introduce her anyway. And I just have to preface this with, we got a lot of questions, me being a professional triathlete, Michael being a personal trainer, about how the concept of middleish and moderation applies to people who are achieving great things in fitness, in life. And I've gotten a little bit of criticism like, professional triathlete, entrepreneur, go-getter. Yeah, this doesn't apply to you. So I kind of thought, who could I have on that, it really is the epitome of holy crap, amazing accomplishments, risk taker, go after it big time, and don't stop. It's not just a little, portion of your life, but this is how you live. And somebody who I really think embraces this concept of balancing things out and being a whole human and finding that path. And we've talked before that it's all relative. So I think that it has a place in this kind of lifestyle. So
absolutely.
Without further ado, Rebecca Rusch is here.
Yay.
Yay. Here she is. Thank you so much, Rebecca. My gosh, I could read off your resume as a professional athlete, 7-time world champion, professional athlete in mountain biking, adventure racing, Iditarod, bike packing. Man, I don't even know. Gravel
Hall
racing.
Of Fame, Emmy winner. Just a few things.
But I think one of the coolest things is the fact that Rebecca really embodies what I picture as the middleish concept in her own approach to these extreme events and this super cool, amazing risk-taking kind of lifestyle. So we are going to dig in with Rebecca. Thank you so much for being here. This is just such a huge honor. I'm so excited that we get to talk with you today.
Yeah, the first time we talked was side by side on a bicycle during your first private Idaho experience. And I was like, who's this fast chick? And we had such a great conversation. And now, we're talking in person and you're part of the RPI challenge. So that was really cool to meet you, and you're an Idaho resident as well. So I'm glad we crossed paths on a bike.
Yes, thank you so much. And that conversation, I remember it was last year. It was my final year as a professional triathlete, and I'm kind of picturing what my life will look like after this. And you were like, you've got to get your master's, man. You've got to inspire others. And you just totally talked me up. And that's kind of what I was picturing for myself anyway. So it's been a good influence, cool. That conversation.
Right on. Well, I'm glad to be part of your transition and evolution.
Cool. And we will talk about, you mentioned Rebecca's Private Idaho challenge, the RPI challenge going on right now. We'll talk about that a little bit. And yeah, I kind of want to start with, you have everything I just listed. And if anybody has seen your movies, your social media, your book, they will know that you've engaged in an extreme, what a lot of people would consider an extreme lifestyle, and in sport for much of your adult life, for over 30 years. and they might think moderation has no place in this woman's life. So what would you say to that?
Well, I mean, you think of the word extreme, and, I could go into, somebody else's office, a boardroom or whatever. I mean, people work their whole lives at their jobs, their families, and I could go into someone else's world, and that would seem extreme to me, to have 4 children, to raise 4 children or
Sure.
something like that. And so we all live within sort of the concept of what is real to us. And for me, going and sleeping outside, camping outside and sleeping under the stars might seem extreme to somebody else. But for me, that's normal, because I built up to it. I built
Mhm.
a life of spending time in the outdoors. And so I'm the last person I would think is an extreme individual, extreme athlete, because it's all baby steps. It
Right.
started as a kid. I camped in my backyard. I would ask my mom in Downers Grove, Illinois, like, can I sleep out in the backyard tonight? And we'd put up a little tent and I'd stay in the backyard. And so that sort of spirit of exploration and adventure has always been within me. And no, I didn't go to the Iditarod Trail. It took me until 51 years of age to have the confidence to go do the Iditarod Trail in winter, self-supported on a bike. But that started, in the backyard at, 9 years old or whatever,
Mhm.
in Illinois. And so when people look at somebody in a snapshot of where they are now and think that it's extreme, you have to think about the process to get there.
Right.
And athletics are a very good example of, if you train, you put the work in, you make slowly, you get fitter. And I think all of us are that way. So taking on something new or trying something, it really is a process. And I have spent most of my life, I feel, as a student. I like to try new things. I've done a lot of different sports. I started in running, and now I'm in cycling, and I've been paddling and climbing and mountaineering and Nordic skiing, because I'm curious. And so part of me feels like I'm a jack of all trades, or Jill of all trades, master of none, because I've done a lot of things, but I'm not the best at any of them. I've just done a lot of them. But the common theme is that still that kid from Illinois who likes to explore and see what's around the next corner.
I think that's a great point that you brought up. I think it's so easy for people, we kind of work in like the nutrition fitness industry, and so often the bulk of what people are wanting to do is lose weight or something, and, smaller dress size, whatever. And I think so often it's easy for people to look at someone who's where they want to be and just go, man, I wish I could do that. Man, they've got it so good, this kind of thing. And what they fail to see is exactly what you mentioned. Like, there's a process to getting there. Yeah, those things seem hard for you, but that's because you've exposed yourself to hard things over and over, and then harder things and harder things. And you've progressed and you've grown and you've gotten stronger. And I think that's such a great point, is that so often those extremes, seemingly extreme things, really don't seem that extreme when you're in them, because of, like you said, it's that process of building up and doing the journey. You don't skip to there, right? Like if I tried to like race alongside you, it'd be a disaster. Like it would not
Michael
go well.
doesn't like Michael doesn't like endurance.
I'm not a cardio guy. Yeah. But it wouldn't go well because I'd be trying to skip all the steps that you took to get there.
Right.
I think that's a great point for anyone who's wanting to progress to new levels of health, fitness, business, personal growth, whatever.
Yeah, it's all got to start at the beginning somewhere, whether you want to learn to fly, or you want to lose 5 pounds, or you want to
Mm-hmm.
become president of the United States. There
Mm-hmm.
is a process that you have to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think another thing you said that sort of speaks to me is, I think people would look at what you've done, or maybe some of the, or like Michael said, the fitting into a dress size or something, and say, I will never be able to do that. That's just not something I can do, and automatically kind of talk themselves out of it. Where I am hearing from you that you just like, I'm going to try that. Like, I'm going to go out there. I mean, you said earlier in your career that mountain biking was a weakness, and then you went on to win like some
Wow.
incredible mountain bike races, world champions, whatever. So I think just taking that step, right? And kind of putting yourself out there and that kind of taking a risk, whatever that means to you, is part of it.
Yeah, I mean, my adventure racing friends, they still can't believe I have a mountain biking career because I mean, I was so bad at mountain biking and I hated it. I didn't enjoy it. I mean, it was definitely my worst sport. And I only did it because it was part of the multi-sport aspect of adventure racing. And my friends from adventure racing are like, how did that happen? And um, I mean, I'm living proof. I started mountain biking at age 38, and I've won a few world championships, and now it's my career. So I'm living proof that trying hard works. And anyone who's ridden with me, I'm not the most gifted technically, because I started really late. I'm not super brave. I don't jump off cliffs and things, but I was able to learn to mountain bike, good enough to get me where I want to go, and use it as a main tool for exploring. So yeah, I'm living proof that trying hard just works. And I would say throughout my career, I was never about the best climber, the best paddler, just sort of try hard. And so, people
Yeah.
call me queen of pain, but I really think it's queen of perseverance and just showing
Yeah.
up and trying and falling down and asking for help and asking for instruction. And I don't know how to do this, which as an adult is hard, because a lot of us find, if we find sport or we find something new later in life, we're already accomplished at something else. You might be a lawyer, a teacher, a doctor, or a triathlete. And then all of a sudden you're a beginner again, asking for help, being like, oh, I don't know how to do this. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we assume as adults, like as a kid or in school, you're supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to be trying all this new stuff. But for some reason, after college, we stopped doing that and we're supposed to have it all figured out. And it really just doesn't work that way. And so, there's a sort of a Buddhist philosophy of having a beginner's mind, of not being afraid to ask a question or try something new. And I love seeing people get involved in a new sport, in their 60s or whenever it is, because I think once we stop growing, we really stop living.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like that. That's a good point. Once we stop growing, we stop living. And I think a lot of times we sort of fear growth, or a lot of people do fear growth. I think there's this
It's hard. Growth is hard.
yeah, it sucks. It's not
Yeah.
Scary.
fun.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's also, I think, a lot of times this assumption from people that growth is impossible. And I think that's because we don't expose ourselves enough or often enough to hard and challenging things. And so when we can't do it the first time, this must not be for me, right? Like, well, I didn't get it, so this must not be the thing that I'm supposed to do. Versus like you're talking about, that perseverance and consistency. No, suck at it and suck at it for a while, and then suck at it less for a while, and then
Yeah.
maybe you're kind of okay, and then several years later, like, oh, I can do this kind of well, but it's going
Yeah.
to be hard.
And I mean, I'd love to pick up everything I do and be really good at it. But, most of us do suck at things when we're new. And I think the key is asking for help and then having a friend to suck alongside you, maybe, yeah, who's like,
Yeah.
oh, let's try something new together. I mean, anytime
Yeah.
you get a buddy and get moral support, it often goes better. I think right now in COVID times and what 2020 has dished out for us, we're all in this new territory of like, I don't know how to do this. I didn't
Mhm.
plan for this
Right.
way. I'm definitely there, and I've been struggling and trying to ask for help with like, how do I redefine my business, or what do we
Yeah.
do here? We have no trail map for where we are right now. And I'm really drawing on a lot of my athletic lessons of like being lost or falling off a bike and getting back up again and trying to figure it out. And I feel distinctly for the first time in my life that all the races and that I've been preparing for, I haven't really been preparing for races. The races have been preparing me for life, for this.
Yeah. And
Mm.
just saying, I mean, just you're describing like we're in this unique time where none of us knows how to navigate this. As an athlete myself, I kind of went through this period of like, okay, I don't want any competition or any pressure or anything like that. But I was looking forward to Rebecca's Private Idaho because of the feeling I had when I was there with you last year. I mean, it was like, I have years of racing, lots of experience, and that was a one of a kind experience for me. And just
Why? What was different about
oh
it for
man,
you?
like the vibe, you show up. I mean, I did the Queen stage, right? So it was over 4 days. And there was just from day one, there was this super cool feeling of like, I mean, we were all in it together, and that adventure stage was just a kick in the ass. You know, it was like super hard. And for me, it was a huge step out of my comfort zone because I just have very little. I mean, you talk about your little experience on the mountain bike or having to learn that. Try a triathlete coming from, we're notoriously shitty bike handlers. So I really had to work at that. And it was like this huge, brave, risk-taking thing that I did. And to experience that with so many other people. And then you go through day 2 and then day 3. And by the time you get to that 4th day, that big stage, the baked potato, I mean, there's how many, a couple thousand people did the baked potato last year?
Yeah, there
Was
were
it?
1,200 last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
geez, it was huge. Felt like a couple thousand, but I felt like I already had this kind of unique team, this little intimate like relationship with all these writers that I had been seeing for the last few days. And just knowing my husband and I had gone and like ridden the course and explored a little bit. It's in my home state. It's with you, and I got to ride with you like every day. I'm like, shit, Rebecca Rusch is out here, mingling with all of us. It just was like this super cool community. And if I boil it down, why I have loved racing, I mean, I haven't always loved the work, the travel, the, hard lessons, the injuries, some of the less shiny things we see about racing, the community and the sharing of the experience and the really finding pieces of yourself that you wouldn't have otherwise realized is what speaks to me. And RPI did all of that for me. It was super cool. So I was really excited to do it this year. And of course, COVID comes up and blows up the world. And I was I had a number of other races that I was doing and they had canceled or gone to virtual or whatever, but I was kind of waiting to see like, what's Rebecca gonna pull out? Because I just knew, I had total faith that like, if anybody's gonna hit this with a super unique way, it's Rebecca. And sure enough, you created this community and how you keep saying it's reimagined. So I'm kind of curious your process of coming up with what you've developed, because to me, it's super engaging and motivating.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you. Like, I'm getting all kind of choked up hearing you say that. It's really special. One, your in-person experience here is really special because what I always wanted to create for Private Idaho, and that's why I called it Rebecca's Private Idaho, is I wanted people, the goals were to celebrate the community. So people, purpose, and place. And I live here because it's a very special place. And I wanted people to get off the beaten track and out of cell phone coverage and really in nature. So that was a super important part of it, but also bring the community together and ride with people and ride with friends. And then, of course, it's always been a fundraising ride for the Be Good Foundation and getting more people on bikes and more access to bikes. And, COVID, the last race I did was the Iditarod. I came home on March 8th and I haven't traveled since. And of course, we've all been like, is COVID going to end? Is it going to, what are we going to do? And so I did that dance for a while, but ultimately I wasn't willing to let go of my goals for the event of celebrating people, purpose, and place. And it's like and I needed it. I mean, it really came out of the fact that my coach is like, what's it going to take for you to get off the couch? I came back from Idaho or from Alaska. And I think all of us, we've been suffering levels of depression probably, and feeling lost and alone and scared. And it's like, what's it going to take for you to, get back on the bike again? And I'm like, I need something to shoot for. And so it took a lot of really soul searching of how could I achieve the same goals, but in a different way. And a lot of people are doing that with COVID right now, having Zoom weddings and, connection is still happening, but in a different way. And so the RPI challenge was born out of that, not letting go of what I needed, but I knew other people needed it too. And it's the reason why you came to Private Idaho last year. It's why people like it, is we need to connect, and we need to challenge ourselves. We need a goal, and we want to feel like we're proactively doing something good in this world. I mean, those are really basic needs that we all have. And so, yeah, I created an entirely different business model, which has been an 8-week online training program, really, with my coach, Tim Cusick, and Base Camp. And I thought about, what if I could give access? Because like you said, you came to RPI and you're like, I got to ride with you. I got to see your hometown. I got to feel this part of the people, part of everything. I'm like, how could I give access to my world and what I have as a pro athlete to other people? And that's where I started thinking about, well, I got my coach, I've got a nutritionist, I've got mindfulness, I've got mobility, I've got all these things. What if I open that up to other people? And that's where the RPI challenge was born, with this 8-week program to prepare as a community. And it's been really cool. You've been on the community and you've been adding in, and everyone's like high-fiving, sharing their workouts. We're all doing this similar workouts together.
Right.
And, I mean, so it's that 8-week training program, but coming up now, we're 2 weeks out, and people can still sign up and do the challenge and do the weekend with us. It's all fundraising this year. We've directed the Be Good Foundation funds towards 4 different organizations we're working with that are all fostering diversity, equity, and inclusion in cycling. And so it's like, we feel like our world is upside down, topsy-turvy, but we need to do something about it. And I think it starts first with taking care of your own mental health and wellness and fitness, hence doing the RPI challenge and committing to a ride that you execute at home. But the second part is, what can we proactively do to improve our situation? And that's the fundraising aspect with the Be Good Foundation is bikes are healing, and we need it, and more people need to be on bikes. So that's a long answer, but basically I wasn't willing to give up. It's that stubbornness in me, and it was a lot of hard work.
Surprise.
I just wasn't willing to quit. I wasn't willing to say canceled. I wasn't willing to say virtual, because it's not a virtual event. It's a real event. You just execute it in your own backyard. And what's really beautiful and what's happening is people are exploring, they're finding routes and places. We're helping them build routes together through Garmin Connect. And people are like, oh my God, I never did that ride. So people are connecting in their own communities in ways that's really special to me too.
Awesome. That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Be Good Foundation?
Yeah, so Be Good Foundation, that was launched just about 5 years ago. The most important ride of my life was riding the Ho Chi Minh Trail through Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And it's a 1,200-mile expedition that I put together, one, to be the first person to do it, but the main goal really was to go to the place where my father's plane was shot down in the Vietnam War. He was a fighter pilot and never came home. And so my sort of personal and professional worlds collided there, and I planned the biggest expedition of my life, and we filmed it. It's the documentary Blood Road that you mentioned, and it was a really powerful journey for me, and amazing. I connected with my family, learned about a culture, and did this amazing exploration. And but one of the biggest discoveries there is that there are still a ton of unexploded ordnance. There's unexploded bombs from a war that ended 50 years ago that are still killing people. Yeah. And I felt distinctly like my dad brought me there to tell me that and show me that and ask me to do something about it. So I came home from that with a mission of like, I can use my bike, my awards, my trophies for more. And that's where I decided to launch the Be Good Foundation in his name, with the initial project of clearing up bombs along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which we continue to do. It's one of my main projects. But the mission statement of the Be Good Foundation is to use the bike as a catalyst for healing, evolution, and exploration. And so, and empowerment, the bike empowers, it heals, it does a lot of really cool things. And so that's the genesis of it. One of our main projects is clearing bombs in Laos along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Every year, except for this year, I've taken a mountain bike group back there as a fundraising ride. We sell bracelets that are made from the bombs that are cleared. Yes, Be Good bracelets.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And the money for the bracelets goes back to clear more bombs. And then RPI is one of my main fundraising events for the year for the Be Good Foundation. And it's all about bike access for RPI. And this year specifically, like I said, targeted towards some organizations that are doing some really good work to get more people on bikes who have not had access before. And that's World Bicycle Relief, the Grow Cycling Foundation, Bahati Foundation, and the League of American Bicyclists all have targeted diversity and equity programs right now that that RPI Challenge is gonna be part of.
That's awesome. And I just caught this. So I just watched the movie for the first time yesterday, and I want to get into that in a minute. But I just caught Be Good Foundation. Be Good is how your dad finished all his letters from Vietnam. Was Be
That's
Good.
right.
Yeah, and I just caught that. I love that. The movie is fantastic.
Thank you.
You know, I didn't know. I mean, I read a little bit about it to kind of know the story, and didn't know what to expect going in. You know, I was like, all right, you know, it sounds fascinating. You know, the whole concept behind it. I was blown away at how good it was.
Thank you.
It's such a fascinating concept just in and of itself. You know, if you give like a 2-sentence synopsis, like that's really interesting. But then the way it plays out, one, it almost feels too perfect to be true. You know, it's just like, this is obviously so meant to be. And I don't personally believe in destiny a whole lot, but in this situation, to me, it's like, it's clearly, this is what you were supposed to do, you know? And it's such a fascinating, educational, heartwarming, it's just an incredible story. And I would really, anyone listening or watching, you can find it on Amazon Prime. It's like 95 minutes. It's absolutely worth your time. Go watch it right now. Well, don't finish this and then go watch it.
Yeah.
But
thank you. I'm with you. I feel like I was meant to be there too, and that my dad really drew me there. My cycling career drew me there. Like, it's, you know, be good. Those words have become my mission statement, and it's been pretty cool to find that purpose, you know, in my life and be able to use the tools I have for something bigger. That my dad, even though he's gone, he's fathering me. He's teaching me.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I love that you said, is that it felt like when you got to that crash site, that it was like, I got my dad back. And it wasn't like a closure. It was like something opening up new in you and in your life. And it's just such a powerful, powerful thing, you know? And so I guess a question for you is how did that moment, that experience and that journey and kind of that pinnacle moment of finding that crash site, how has it changed the way you see things, the way you see humanity, the way you live life? How has it impacted you?
I mean, it's impacted me greatly. I mean, I'll say it's been 5 years. And initially when I came home, I couldn't process it. It was such a big experience. I spent a couple years actually really wondering, what did this mean? Is my competitive spirit dead? What do I do now? How do you follow up on the biggest, most important ride of your life? You know, what was I meant to do? So it took me a while to really do some soul searching of, what is my own personal mission statement? You know, every company has a mission statement, but very few people do. And I didn't. I'd been going race to race. I've been having fun. I've been doing all this stuff. But what was it really for? And people kept asking me, like, you know, when are you going to stop racing? What's it all for? And I didn't have a good answer. And so I spent the couple years following Blood Road. I think the biggest thing it made me do was reflect of, what does this mean? It was such a powerful experience. And you're exactly right. I did not feel everyone has said, oh, you must have felt closure when you found your dad. And it was so opposite of that. I even told the film, you know, editors and stuff, I'm like, we're not using the word closure. Like, it's not what I'm feeling at all. Like, it was a birth and a connection that is hard to explain. But I feel like, you know, it was my dad opening my eyes to take the blinders off from, you know, chasing races myself and looking outward. inward and outward at the same time of what do I stand for? What do I want my legacy to be? How can I use my skills and what I have for more? But then also listening to his words of, be good. It's pretty simple. And there's bombs along the trail and you could maybe do something about it. And, riding with Huen, my teammate, really opened my eyes to forgiveness and how we cannot change history. We can learn from it. But being angry or mad or looking back in that way, it's not productive. And we were so welcomed in Vietnam and Laos, and I wasn't sure we would be. As the daughter of an American fighter pilot who was bombing these villages, I was like, I don't know that we'll be welcomed. If someone came to my front door and knocked on my front door and said, my father was dropping bombs on your house, can I come in? I probably wouldn't say yes, when you put it in that concept. And Huen was just, she said, well, the past is the past. We built a friendship that's future, for the future. And I think it's something to listen to now, that history is our greatest teacher, but we can't change it. We can just change what happens next. And so that was a powerful experience of me, is that I could do more, and what I could do next, to connect people and cultures and healing. And it's why in the mission statement of Be Good, healing is part of it, because I very much felt healed and empowered by riding my bicycle through Vietnam and Laos and Cambodia.
Yeah. So it sounds like there was a distinct kind of shift, and I'm curious if you were kind of feeling maybe the competitiveness, because you hear all of the athletic accolades that you've had. I think there is that natural, okay, after a certain number of, world championships and whatever, where does it end? Were you already kind of processing that and wondering yourself, or did this shift kind of happen once you took the journey of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, once you processed what it meant to, find the crash site, to process what your father was kind of leading you toward?
Yeah, the sort of question of is my competitive spirit dead? What am I doing? That all happened after the Ho Chi Minh Trail. I'm like, well, what happens now? And I'm very much still, what was cool to discover, I had to ask myself, well, why do I race? What is my why for racing? Why do I go on these bike expeditions? Is it to win another trophy? No, it's really not. Am I hyper competitive? Do I want to be the best version of myself? Absolutely. And so what I realized is that, the trail is my teacher. Doing these big bike expeditions or training hard or trying to hit power numbers, I learn about myself. And so I'm not going to retire, because I want to continue to learn the lessons of the trail. And it's why, after Blood Road, there's a distinct shift in the races and the type of events I do, moved towards more of an expedition style of going up Kilimanjaro, more bike packing. Going to the Iditarod in Alaska was really challenged me and pushed me. And I realized I hadn't pushed myself really hard and been to a very committing thing in a while. And so I think Blood Road really brought me back to my roots and my why, and that kid in the backyard who liked to explore and wanted to go longer and bigger and see what was around the next corner. And so I do feel like that helped my riding and my why become full circle of I love to win, great, but I'm not chasing a podium. I'm chasing a lot more than that. But it does involve racing.
Yeah. And we've talked, sorry, Michael.
Go ahead.
I was just going to reflect that we've talked about our, finding your why with our audience a lot. Just, some people are super competitive and some people aren't, and that's okay. And some people are really into, doing extreme events or trying new things. And some people really would rather have a little bit more of a comfort zone. But I think what you're saying is very relatable on so many different levels. It doesn't even have to be through extreme competition or chasing podiums or being, the best at a sport. It could be like you're saying, the best version of you, whatever that is, and getting to know yourself and what really makes yourself whole and bring the best to the world.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm just chasing that, being the best version of myself. And I happen to use athletics and, expedition riding at this point as my tool for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you just said about the trail as your teacher. And I think that's such a good illustration for just life. I think no matter what anyone's endeavors are, and it's something we've talked about on here before, but it's not standing on the podium that has changed your life. It's not those events that have caused this great growth in you. It's the hitting the trail. It's the journey there. It's the one foot in front of the other kind of thing. To me, it sounds like was what you were just saying. That's where the lessons are learned that enable you to go on to the next level. And I think that's just such a beautiful illustration for all of us, is because I think we want to skip the work a lot of times. We want to skip, like we were talking earlier, we want to skip the hard thing. I just want to get to the end. But everything is in that process and that journey. I think that if you want to go anywhere new, then you've got to put, you got to learn the lessons that the trail, the journey, the path has to teach you. Otherwise, you're just not going to get there. And so I'm just really glad you said that from someone from an extreme, sport perspective, from very successful in what they're doing, physical feats kind of stuff, that it's just like, it's all in the trail. That's where the teacher is. It's not at the end result. It's in those lessons that you learn along the way. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I want to say one more thing about Blood Road, then we can move on from it if you want. But so I have 2 kids, 2 girls. One of them's 3. I am a musician, pretend musician. Okay, I have recorded a few albums. I play my guitar some and sing and stuff. And so the scene where you're playing the recording from your dad, and you said, this is all you have of his voice, is this recording of him singing a song, and that's all you've had from 3 years on. Man, it hit me so hard, thinking like, man, what if that's all like my little girl, my 3-year-old had of me, was like my music, and that's all she, the only time she knew my voice, no memories of it, anything like that. I bawled like a baby watching that part. And it's got me hugging him a little bit extra last night and today. So just so you know.
Well, I love that. And it hits me too. I'm like getting teared up even thinking about it, because hearing this voice has been really important to me. And, I'm not a musician, but I've like learned to play that song on the ukulele so I can, so I can sing it. And, but it's a reminder of what do we leave behind, and the importance of telling a story, and you recording an album or writing in a journal or sending a thank you note to somebody who sent you a gift. I mean, what we leave behind, the tangible items are important, whether it's a painting or a recording. And I know a lot of Vietnam vets, when they were serving, they would send recorded messages home or write letters home. And that's what the family holds on to, as a connection. And, I've thought a lot about death since Blood Road, but really this year in 2020, thinking of a lot of things have died for people. We've lost a lot of people physically. We've lost, bike events that we love, or we've lost a lifestyle of traveling or going to work or going to the office. We've lost what we knew. And back to your example, though, of my father is gone, but he is very much a part of me and connected to me. And I hear his words, I read his letter, he's my mission statement, be good. And so when I think about the things that we have lost this year and the people we've lost, there is a way to connect with them still. And it's why our PI challenge isn't dead, because I wasn't willing to let it die this year. And so I think for people who are struggling this year and thinking about things and things that are gone, how do you maintain and hold the things that are special to you from what's gone and keep it with you? because it's not truly gone if you don't let it go away. And I've been thinking about that. And I think a lot of people are finding creative ways to hold on to what's special to them and what they need. So keep singing songs for your girls, keep writing letters, because those things are how we stay connected even when somebody or something is gone.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. Whew. I don't even know how to follow that up with a
I know
question, but I just no, it's so fantastic, and it gets me really thinking about through this time with my practice being a dietitian and working with clients and just my own process with this. I've been really practicing the word grace, showing myself some grace and encouraging people to show themselves some grace during this period because things are not as they once were. And this is something that I have encouraged for years, in any situation, like, okay, we can't be perfect all the time and you can't nail it all the time. So how can you practice showing yourself grace so that you can move on to the next step? And I think that's just so amplified right now because there's probably a lot of that like grieving process. Oh, things weren't as they were last year, or these are the plans I had, or whatever. Yeah, I think it's just it's amplified because of COVID, really, and I think it's so cool that you've been able to identify that, and without just being like, okay, we're going to have to cancel like all of the thousands of other events. Let's maneuver and figure out a way to. I mean, sure, it's not what we had imagined at this time last year. Next year is going to be this. It's not the same, but you're doing what you can with what you've got.
Well, we have a choice. We mourn something bad that's happened, and you go through the phases of grief, and then you get to a point where it's like, well, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to adapt? Because it's here. Like I said, we can't change history, but we can change the future and how we adapt to it. And we have to. We don't really have another choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's where we get hung up, is that we're fighting that, right? Like we're forced to pivot, but we don't want to. And so our only option is kind of to do things differently, but we don't want to do things differently. And so there's that weird tension of, like, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do things. I want to hold on to the way things have been. And the thing is that there's no forward movement there. It's just kind of stuck holding on to these things from the past or preferences, whatever they are. And it's just like, and like you kind of hinted at earlier, it's just like, that's where things start to die. Like you stay there, well, there's no growth there. There's no life there,
Yeah, it's treading water. I mean, I know I treaded water for a while this year, and some people still are. And I'm not saying I've got it all figured out, but at least it feels like there's some forward movement, and there is something I'm going to try. And it may work, it may not work, but
you're trying.
I'm not treading water.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, you're swimming somewhere.
Yeah.
There's shore out there somewhere. I'm going to move. I'm not going to wait here and see if something changes. Yeah, I love
That's
that.
right.
So I love your little equations for your core values, Rebecca. Can you just tell us a little bit about how, I mean, you've already given us a really great background into how you've come to the Be Good Foundation and, developing RPI and all of this, but I love your simple little equations of your core values. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. That was the 2-year process after Blood Road of me just sitting there. What do I stand for? What are my sort of navigational tools to get through life? What are my rules of engagement? And so I looked backwards. I looked at all the pivotal moments in my life and looked at, moving into my car or getting this job or going to college, and kind of looked for patterns. And that's where these equations came from, of things that had worked in the past and maybe they can work in the future. And so I was really just trying to develop a little bit of a roadmap for myself, or a trail map of, well, I don't really know where I'm going, but maybe I just need some some navigational tools. And in navigation, there's a thing that's called handrails. So if you're looking at a topo map, it's kind of old fashioned. A lot of people don't look at paper maps anymore, and you're navigating through the terrain, you look for things that are handrails. So it might be something really obvious, like a stream or a ridge line, something that's not going to change, that you can easily identify. And you may not know where you're going in between that stream and that ridge line, the micro navigation, but you've got those handrails to kind of keep you going in the right direction. So these equations really were an attempt at my navigational handrails for life. And they're based on looking back at pivotal moments. And I started to see the pattern. And the first one is risk equals reward. Everything cool I've done has been risky. And the reward is often not what I thought it was going to be. But there's always been a payback from taking a risk. The second one is passion equals payoff. And, if my heart is in something and I'm passionate about it, it will work out. Mountain biking is a good example of that. I was a lousy mountain biker, but I tried really hard. I wanted to do it. And I won some world championships doing it. So skill and being adept at something is not nearly as important often as just being passionate about it and really wanting to do it. The third one is give equals get. And that's finding that, the more I look outside myself, that I really get motivated by seeing people cross the finish line at RPI. Like, I'm as excited about that as I am my own finish lines. And so that's been really exciting. And launching the foundation, I get a lot out of giving back. And the most recent one that I had to add is less equals more, and finding that, spreading myself too thin, I found I was neglecting my own health and wellness, my own training, my own family, and was like, well, that's not what my dad wanted. And so I had to instill the less equals more, and say no to a few things to make sure that I don't sacrifice myself by trying to give so much to everybody else. And that fourth one really is important because it's hard to say no to things. And then ultimately, whenever I'm in doubt, be good always comes into my mind. And so for people who haven't written a mission statement or don't have a set of navigational tools of how they're going to get through life, it's an exercise that takes a while. This took me 2 years to come up with those 4 simple lines. But they're based on the patterns of my life and the choices I've made. And I looked for those patterns. So anyone could do it. I would encourage you to start journaling and write some things down, and you'll start to see it emerge. It's already in there. You just haven't been able to articulate it yet.
Yeah. I love especially what you said. That fourth one is something I think that Michael and I are really engaged in and trying to help people understand that the less equals more, and how you described kind of setting some boundaries on what are the pieces of my life that are really important to who I am as a person, as Rebecca, not just Rebecca Rusch, the, movie maker, the adventurer, the world champion, and all of these other things. Like, there's Rebecca that has all of these other pieces that need to be nurtured and protected as well. And I think that's what humanizes all of us and makes this so relatable to everybody, regardless of, what level you are in competition or otherwise. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's a good one to remember.
Well, and I know too, there's a lot of people in the training program that we're doing right now in the RPI challenge are like, I can't fit it in. I don't have time for the training. And ultimately it's kind of like being on an airplane, if people remember what that was like, where the attendant says, you have to put your mask on first before you help the person next to you. And we have to take care of our own health and wellness first in order to be good parents, good employees, good family members, contributing to the society. If you neglect yourself, eventually you're going to burn out. And I know that from experience. A lot of us know it from experience. And it's, like I said, why I launched RPI Challenge, because I needed to get back to taking care of myself. And the beautiful gift that has happened is now I'm taking care of all these other people who are in the challenge as well. And it's come full circle, but it had to start with me. It had to start with me taking control of my own health and wellness and mental fitness and physical fitness. And so it's for people who are like, I don't have time for that. You have to make time for it, because we have one body, one mind to get through this world, and you want it to last a good long time, and you want it to be at its best.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Well said.
Michael, do you have anything else right now?
Do you want me to have something else?
No, I was going to ask a couple, maybe fun questions, or just a couple that I was talking with my husband, who met you at Leadville. Well, briefly met you at Leadville, Rebecca, back in, oh my gosh, it was probably around like 2014, maybe 2015 that he did it. And he just was like, he came home and was like, oh my gosh, she's so rad. She just comes through the crowd and is like, hey, everybody. And we're like so personable and blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of asking him last night, like, what should I ask her? And he was curious. Are you still involved in firefighting, wildland firefighting?
I am a volunteer member, at the Ketchum Fire Department. My husband's a full-time member, and so, I donate my time when I can, and it's been quite intense here with COVID, obviously. And so, I'm an EMT and firefighter part-time. That would be my other job if this whole bike thing didn't work out and all this other stuff.
It's a backup.
But yeah, it's a cool way to be involved in my community. And I would say for anyone who lives in a small town and if they've got an EMT program and a fire program, it's really amazing, a way to feel like you're giving back to your community. And it's a great education to have, to be an EMT and have those skills for the trail.
Sure.
And it's really cool to get to drive a fire engine around every once in a while.
That's what it's really about, right?
I'm not gonna
lie. That's where it's really at. That's great.
So what about some of the things that I've heard you talk about keeping kind of centered and focused are, I know you've got 2 dogs, Gracie and Diesel, right?
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Yeah. So I know they're a big part of it. I know that you're very connected to nature, but can you maybe describe a little bit some of the very maybe casual daily things that you use to stay just centered?
Yeah. And, nobody's perfect. It ebbs and flows a little bit. Blood Road, I got into journaling because the creative director wanted me to write down voice journal and written journal every day. And I've maintained that process. I'm not great at it, but I do try to write a page or two, every other day of thoughts. And that helps me when I'm really kind of stressed, of just to like release things that are keeping me awake at night. I'll just write some things down, but it also is a nice way to reflect and look back of things that you're grateful for. And so, I try to not just vent into my journal. Also write like things like, wow, I have a roof over my head. I have a loving husband, I have my health. And sometimes we don't want to say those things out loud. And so, I try to journal a little bit. My dogs really are kind of like these little Buddhas walking around our house or something, because, they're such kind spirits. They're happy every day. They want to go outside. They can feel your energy, if it's positive or negative. And it's just a little mirror of like, even if we present in the world like we're in a bad mood, everybody sees that. And the fact that my dog will like, cower if I use a harsh word, it's like, oh wow, we really do have an effect on everything that's around us. And so they make me smile, and they make, it's simple little joy. And so, my daily routine is we walk, outside every morning, every evening, sometimes in the middle of the day. And I'll just sit by the river with them, play with a stick. And so I think a lot of people right now are finding these simple things like sitting down to dinner with their family or cooking a meal, or they really are quite precious. And in our busy lives, when we're doing too much, we neglect those things. And so, my dogs are kind of a little window into reality every day. And nature therapy is a really big deal for me. I'll just sit down by the river a lot of times. I have implemented meditation since Blood Road as well. Again, I'm not great at it, I fall asleep sometimes when I'm doing it.
That's
But
just
yeah, I
doing
use
it
that.
really well, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm just so relaxed. But
I'm so good at this.
I use the Headspace app, and it's just nice to we rarely take a minute, 5 minutes to sit still and just breathe. And so you don't have to meditate, but to just sit still and take a deep breath and be like, okay. And so often, sometimes I'm doing that with a meditation app. Sometimes I'm just doing it outside, sitting with my dogs by the river. So just chilling out for a second every day. I've implemented 10 minutes at night. I get on the floor, which it's multitasking. So I pet the dogs, I get on a foam roller, I roll around and just take care of mobility a little bit for 10 minutes a day. You could do it while you're watching TV. And I found, I don't notice I don't feel old, or I don't notice like a decline in performance or anything like that. But what I do notice is I get more stiff as I age. And so I'm like, I can't have that. I want to be able to move. And like I said, we have one body, and I'm like, why does my back hurt? I got to do something about that. So I have noticed that I need to pay a little more attention to that stuff. And I cook a lot. I love cooking and gardening and doing some of those homebody things that people probably would never think the Queen of Pain would do. And I'm not good at them. I haven't grown a tomato yet, but
You haven't. I was watching your Instagram stories at the springtime, and your garden was ahead of mine. So I'm surprised.
I grew lettuce really well. I grew beans. I grew some stuff, but this was not a tomato year for me for some reason. So I'm learning.
Well, if you ever come to Boise and you happen to ride by my house, I have a policy that anybody can pick my tomatoes. We have this little gang. We have this little gang of kids in our neighborhood that ride their bikes by, and they will come and just like stop, and they're still on their bikes, and they're like picking tomatoes and eating them, and then they take off. It's the most glorious thing.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm working on the tomato thing. I think I overwatered them. So
yeah.
Dang.
It's a work in progress.
Too much love.
There's nothing quite like a homegrown tomato. It's really its own special thing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I have one more Matt question. What's the most off the hook fun experience you've had? I mean, race, adventure, or otherwise?
Oh, type 2 fun or type 1 fun?
I guess that's your pick.
Maybe one of each.
Yeah, you might have to explain to people what type 2 fun is. I don't know if we've gotten there yet.
Yeah, I mean, type 2 fun is something that while you're doing it, it maybe it's not like you're not giggling and laughing like you're being tickled, and it's perhaps hard or painful, but finishing it and accomplishing it, that feels really fun. And it goes back to the trail being a teacher. And I do have to say that Iditarod Trail in Alaska is by far the hardest expedition I've done, the hardest thing I've done in my life, as far as the extreme nature of it. Minus 40-degree temperatures in Alaska in the winter, self-supported. It's so intense and so committing. And I've done the 350-mile now 2 years in a row and completed it both times. And by far, that's the most special thing I've ever done. I mean, being in the Alaskan wilderness and, literally howling with the wolves and hearing wolves howling, and you're in such this state, and I howl with them, and there's no one else out there but you, or seeing ptarmigan birds like flying. And I mean, it really is quite special and surreal. And to be able to take your bike there and do that and be in that kind of remote terrain is really quite special. So my goal is I've signed up for the 1,000-mile version. I did the 350 twice to practice. And if we can travel in February, I'll attempt the 1,000-mile version next year. And that'll be a month, on the trail. So that would be quite a soul-searching, big teaching event. But the 2 years of the 350 have been very extreme and really fun for me, because it is a big growth. And last year I got to experience that with my husband. We went and did it together, and that was really special.
Cool.
Super cool.
And fun, just like having fun.
Yeah, type 1 fun.
Type 1 fun. I mean, I love playing stick with my dogs. Like, just, it makes me laugh, just like how silly they are, and like throwing the stick and wrestling with them. And that's fun for me. And I get to do that every day.
That's a good time. Playing with the dog is always a good time.
Yeah.
That's why I'm on a puppy hunt right now. We got to find
right.
one. We got to find a puppy for the family.
Rescue dogs are pretty great.
Yep, I've been looking. I want to get something little because I want a puppy in my girl's story. You know, I want my girls to have a little puppy as opposed to like something that's a couple of years old. But they're hard to come by right now in those rescues. But I'm looking. App on every day. So
awesome.
Well, do you have a meaning in the mundane, Michael?
I do. Yeah.
You want to share?
Don't be surprised. I do.
You actually have one. It didn't take you 10 minutes to come up with one.
No, I didn't make you go first, so I could think of one. No, it was actually yesterday. So we have upstairs, we have like a playroom area, and we have a little love seat up there for the girls so they can watch movies sometimes and stuff. And I sat down on there with Sophie, who's my 3-year-old, and I looked beside me and I was like, what the hell is that? And there's like this pink gooey stuff that's connecting the two cushions of my love seat. I'm like, what is this? And so I pull them up and it's silly putty. Like just these two big spots that, I mean, I'm like muscling the cushions apart. Like this is stuck. It's been there a while. And I'm like, crap, seriously? So I spend the next hour probably icing it and, you know, scraping with a butter knife and using alcohol and trying to get the stuff off, which was not at all what I wanted to do with my morning, right? And so I'm just like kind of getting, you know, a little pissed off about the situation and who did this and where, you know, that kind of stuff, and just getting frustrated a little bit. And then it just kind of hits me, like I just stopped. And I don't know if my girls said something or what, but something just stopped me kind of cold. And I just kind of looked around and they were off doing their own thing. And I kind of looked at them and looked around the playroom and I kind of thought about my house. I thought about my life and I was like, you know what? Man, I love my life. Like things are good. This is so not in any way important or worth being upset about, or so what if these cushions are ruined? Like we can buy a new love seat, or we can sew some fabric over this so it doesn't spread, or let it spread, whatever. Like it doesn't matter. This is unimportant. And this is not how I should be spending my time right now. Not cleaning up this, the issue, but feeling this way, right? Like this isn't worth disrupting my happiness and my time with my girls and that kind of stuff. And it was just a very recentering moment that apparently I needed. So
that's
a good one.
Story. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Stupid silly putty.
And that, you're right. That stuff is hard to pull apart. Like it's, if you do it slowly, it's nice and stretchy, but if you try and it's hard.
Well, it's been drying for, I don't know, weeks. I can't remember the last time they had silly putty out. It's probably been at least a few weeks, if not a month. That stuff gets hard. Like, I mean, like literally scraping it. Like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But it was good for me. It was a good lesson. Yeah, it was a good lesson. Yeah.
Rebecca, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
You go. I hadn't prepared for this. Yeah.
You can do the Michael, and that's you go, yeah, while she's talking, and then go, okay, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? This is what I usually do for the mean and the mundane, because I forget to come up with one beforehand.
It's like, it's cool. It's cool. I'm sure you can come up with something. So last week I met a friend, or earlier this week, I guess. I'm in a time warp, right? It's COVID. I was meeting a friend to swim at our local ponds that are just down. We take the river path, which we call the Green Belt here in Boise. Ride my bike down there, swim for recovery because it was a rest day for the RPI challenge, and ride home. And I'm riding my bike along the Green Belt by Boise State University. And for probably nearly a mile, there are sections of the BSU band out practicing in their different sections. So like every section of Greenbelt, I got to hear the brass, and then I got to hear the percussion, and then I got to hear the flutes, and so it was just this really cool, and of course they're all practicing their different parts and whatever. They're not in sync with each other, but it was such a cool, like, thank you, COVID. I hardly ever say those words, but I would never get this like live band kind of experience riding my bike down the Greenbelt on a sunny summer day if it weren't for this strange situation that gives us these very unexpected kinds of gifts and experiences. So it was my kind of that odd twist of thank you, COVID, for giving me this weird experience. Everybody's outside practicing their instruments when they would be inside any other day.
I mean, I hope that
awesome.
there's some things like that we keep and hold on to. And the band should practice outside. Like I was in band, we never got to play outside. Like that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
So
and anybody going, anybody going by would love it. I mean, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. If the band was a good band, I'd say I wasn't very good in band, so maybe
there's a qualifier there. If they suck, maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, I already admitted I didn't really prepare for this, but I do want to say, you know, the meaning in the mundane that I've been finding with the RPI challenge is on that Facebook group. And I don't love social media, you know, it's part of my job. I do love the connection and seeing what people are doing, and in small doses it's amazing, but it can be this big hairy monster that takes over. And we have the private Facebook group that is part of the RPI challenge, and you know, I go on and I look and, you know, comment and connect with people, and I've been so touched by how personal it is and how people are total strangers, people I may never meet and who won't meet each other. They're all becoming friends and joking around and, you know, putting pictures of their children up and talking about how their workout was hard and talking about how, you know, they were depressed or they were struggling and now they have a sense of community. And so it's the best part of social media is actually, I look forward to going onto that Facebook group and talking to people I don't even know. And that it was surprising for me because of, I have sort of kept social media, not at a distance, but not engaged in a very personal way like that. That is back and forth. I will engage and put it out, but this is very much a relationship. And so that has been really surprising and a really nice thing for me. And I'll miss that little group when we're all done with this, because people have been really special on there, and it's that give equals get. Like I'm more encouraged to share because they're sharing, and then you know, they'll share their stories. So that has been a highlight of the last weeks with the training program.
Yeah. And I would totally agree with that I have similar sentiments about social media. You know, it's been part of my job, and sometimes there's really great pieces of it and sometimes there isn't. And so when I signed up for RPI Challenge, which I was inspired to do because of my experience last year, and then just having you know, I needed something. And I mean, if there's nothing else out there, I'm at least gonna like engage in, I know Rebecca Rusch is going to deliver, so I'm in. And the Facebook group, I was a little bit like, okay, I've been in these groups before. I'm not really, you know, maybe we'll see. And it just, I mean, it felt very like open and natural and authentic, and like, you know, lots of great energy on there. Really good questions. I could tell that a lot of the people on there were kind of getting out of their comfort zone, and they felt safe enough to like ask these questions and put it out there, which I think that vulnerability, especially in sport, or like you said, with total strangers that may never meet, I think that's super cool. And it just like brings that connection even stronger. So yeah, I've been really impressed with that piece too. It's good.
That's cool. And imagine when these people from the RPI Challenge Facebook group, next year they might get to meet in person and ride together.
I know. Yeah.
Like I mean,
How cool would
it's
that
just
be?
so cool to like,
Yeah.
now they know each other, and that they might come to Idaho and be like, oh, I already know some people,
Mhm.
Mhm.
even though they haven't met yet.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like Rebecca said, you can still sign up for Rebecca's Private Idaho. You have 4 distances. Can you
Yeah,
tell us?
20 mile, 56 mile, 102 mile, or a 3-day stage race that you know very well, which is
Mhm.
two 50-mile, approximately 50-mile days and 100-mile day. And what you do, people are like, well, how do I do that? Through Garmin Connect, you build a route, and we have how-tos, build a route at home, and you mimic as best you can the course profile of RPI. So you hit the distance and the elevation markers, but you design it at home. And so for you, that may be going around your block 100 times in a circle, or it may be a big adventure ride, or it may be indoor on a trainer. So there really is a way for people to execute wherever they are in whatever distance works for them, and we'll help you do it. So RebeccasPrivateIdaho.com. And like I said, portion of entry fees are all going towards organizations that are getting more people on bikes who haven't had access before. So what
Awesome.
else do you have to do Labor Day weekend?
Right.
No kidding. And how many people I've actually seen a lot of people getting on gravel this particularly this year.
Yeah.
And I know a ton of people that could just go out and knock out a 20-mile ride
Oh yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So there's
20
no
miles on a
excuse, you
bike is
guys.
not a big deal. Yeah, 20 miles on a bike is doable for almost anybody,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think the route building piece is it's the biggest challenge for me. And I'm getting really nerdy about it,
Yeah.
trying to find something around Boise. But man, I'm going to have a lot more climbing probably just because Boise is, to get on dirt around here, it's very hilly. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think, some people are going to have more climbing to hit the distance. I know that Coach Tim is doing the same. He's going to have to climb more.
Yep. Yep.
Extra
Yeah.
credit.
I know. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, well,
So
I'm
is
excited.
the
Go
best
ahead.
place for people to learn more about that, sign up, learn more about you, is that your website? Is that the best place to send people?
Yeah, my website is Rebecca Rusch, Rusch. Social media is the same. And then
Okay.
Private Idaho is RebeccasPrivateIdaho.com. But you can get
Okay.
there through my website as well.
Cool. And then
Yeah.
we'll link it in the video description below in this
Thank
post too.
you.
And then of
Great.
course, again, just, check out Blood Road on Amazon Prime too. Is it anywhere else? Do you know? That's just
Yeah,
where
it's
I
on
found
Amazon Prime. It's on Red Bull TV. You
Okay.
can get it on iTunes.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yep. I highly, highly recommend it. So,
Thank you. Thanks for watching.
Awesome.
absolutely. It's my pleasure.
And thank you
Yeah.
so much, Rebecca, for joining us. This
Mhm.
has just been a great discussion, and
Very fun.
I'm blown away. No surprise. And thank you for everything you're doing for the world and the cycling community and your
Mhm.
own community.
We're
Yeah.
all doing what we can, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Great.
Be
This has been
good.
great. Yeah.
Thank you. Be good.